hand. You can click on the hand and raise your hand, and then I'll sort of
Sorry
nominate.
to interrupt here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Problem displaying the content for me. I'm not sure whether anybody else has got the same issue or whether they can see the slides.
You can't see the slides at the moment.
The problem displaying the content.
For us, we see.
Everybody else
Well, I'm
the
seeing the
problem?
slide normally.
Yes, we see
Can
it.
you?
We see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Sorry, James. I don't know how to. Sorry. I don't want there any go through. Yeah. So you can see the full view of the slides. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So yeah. So you should know that if you check the information on the website before applying, that so the course has, well, it's a 5-week course, but there are 4 units. So in week 5, be any group session in week 5, but you'll have the opportunity of having a one-to-one tutorial on Teams with me for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So that's optional in week 5. And I'll send out invitations to that. It's up to you whether you take up that opportunity. But I think it's a good chance for you to have a one-to-one with me about get some advice on writing, if you think that would be helpful. So yeah, the first 4 weeks we'll be looking at different chapters in a very sort of traditional format of a thesis, or what would equate to a section of a research paper as well. So, for example, this week we'll be looking at, in addition to the overall structure of a thesis, we'll be looking at writing an introduction. And then we'll go on to having a look at the methods and then results, discussion, and conclusion. So that's how it works. So we'll be covering 1 week, 1 unit each week. And each week will follow a similar pattern. So we'll be looking at structure, so how to structure the different ways of structuring these different chapters or sections, and maybe the content and how you organize the content. And we'll also be having a look at language as well, some useful language that you can use in these different chapters or sections. And a very important, I think, aspect of this course is I'm trying to develop your skills at analyzing language and discourse from writing within your respective disciplines as well. So you'll do that by analyzing some generic samples of writing, but then each week you'll be asked to analyze some extracts from the literature in your own fields. I think that's really important, because even though everybody is writing in STEM subjects, that there are differences between disciplines. So that's I'll maybe just go through the next slide. So the course content is based on this book called Scientific Research Writing, and it's by somebody called Hilary Glassman Deal. And this is so this is the second edition. The first edition was published quite a number of years ago, and the original title was for non-native speakers of English. But the author and the publishers realized that science research writing is not necessarily a challenge just for students whose first language is not English, but also to native, inverted commas, native speakers as well. And I think this is really important. It's like everybody probably can still work on their writing, irrespective of their first language background. It's up to you how much. So you can you can follow up the individual sessions by having a look at the book online, so the relevant chapters or the relevant units of the book online, so you'll be able to access through the university library. But it's up to you whether you do that or not. You might feel there's probably a sufficient input with these sessions. You don't actually need to. But it may be worth having a look. This is basically how the course is divided. So, yeah, in addition, as I mentioned, we'll be looking at the overall structure of a thesis as well as write and work independently. So there'll be some tasks. There'll be a short task for you to do next week. And you can work independently on that. Maybe have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and do that little task, and then we can sort of reconvene. But today I'll sort of go through that type of task with you, okay, with the slides. Yeah, the sessions as well. If you feel like, we might have a break as well, 5 or 10 minutes. It's up to you. You can see what you feel like as well. Any questions or any queries?
It is clear. It is clear.
Okay, we've talked maybe some things. You can maybe put your response on. Maybe just I'll open this one up actually. Does anybody actually enjoy writing?
Yes, I can answer.
Yeah.
Since I am a foreign, let me say foreign UK character, so I am very interested in writing English because I am Arabic. So I find it very important for me to raise my level in scientific fields related to my specialist. Especially that our department is based on very much on English capability. So this skill, let me say, we transfer it to our students. So it is very necessary for us as Arab world to facilitate our communication with the outer world, with the technology, is to learn this type of skills, which is writing scientific fields. So for me, I tried to enter this difficult task. This helped me to share many colleagues in publishing many papers. So that was very important for me to make very efforts that I can to raise my level in writing.
Yeah, I think you make some very important points there, British National. So what challenges do you face in writing, or why did you decide to do this course?
So I have a background in which my undergraduate degree was very heavy on teaching us how to write scientific essays. So I feel like for that sort of skill, I have quite a good background. But just being able to, with my own research, put it
into writing. That's all. No, yeah, you can call me both. That's what I'm saying. Trisha is fine. I do enjoy writing in general, but it becomes a burden when it's, as I think Laura said, when you have to condense it into a big book for a scientific audience. So I used to write a lot of like literary pieces, and where you have that great flexibility in being as imaginative as you can with English. But in science, you have to be clear, concise, coherent, and you have to target your audience, and you have to write, very very meticulously in a particular way that is going to get your point across to a thesis committee. So sometimes it's a little bit daunting finding the right words and the right ways to express yourself, because you're going into different chapters and each chapter is supposed to take you logically to a story, and it must make sense from start to finish. So it's sometimes, especially for people who, you know, are still formulating that PhD, especially if you're in second year and you're still building that story, becomes a little bit difficult. How do you start? I think that first sentence is always the tricky one. How do you start and how do you finish? But not only how do you start and finish, but how do you fill the middle? I think for me,
You think you need to improve?
I'd probably echo what Trisha said for an awful lot of it, and I think for myself as well, the introduction, I think you end up having an awful lot of knowledge from different bits and pieces, and it's just sort of trying to compartmentalize and say tell that sort of eloquent story rather than just getting all the information and just dumping it onto a page. And by the end of it, you think the thesis committee can't make head. It's just sort of becoming a bit more eloquent and being able to sort of articulate your points in a better manner rather than just getting everything that you know and effectively dumping it onto however many pages. So that's a bit I feel like I would probably struggle with the most. But yeah, I would echo most of Trisha's points of just being able to make sure that you tell a concise and eloquent story, getting across all the key points and not putting in bits that just become unnecessary or just writing things for the sake of writing it as much.
The same as Stephen Jay Gould here, who was a sort of well-known popular science writer, and he was a sort of paleontologist. I think he was paleontologist, biologist. And yeah, I think he got this view that, yeah, a lot of scientists hate writing, so that maybe seeing it as a chore, something they have to do. But Stephen Jay Gould here is commenting, as you have already, it should be seen as being part of the creative process. I think Trish mentioned, like, creation in part of the creative process. And I think James as well almost like synthesizing there as well. It's that synthesizing, bringing it all together. So that exploration of consequences and meaning. I think what was mentioned earlier as well, maybe by Safwan as well, it's about communicating, this chance to communicate. It's not just about, you may like do some wonderful research, but being able to communicate that research in your research story is so important. So in the rest of, we'll see how much of this we can get through. You might be able to continue some, if we have time today, you'll analyze introductions from your own fields, but if not, you can maybe continue that at home. So that's what we'll be, so we'll be looking at the word story or storyline was used. So we'll be looking at planning the underlying narrative scaffolding. Maybe get your ideas, your thoughts about the best way to structure a thesis or a research paper, how you go about structuring it. And then we'll look at, I'll introduce a sort of model. It's going to be a very, very different for a thesis, but it's just going to be a very short extract of an introduction to a paper, and we'll get you to analyze that. And we'll look at how the writer tries to sort of maximize readability, what makes it readable, relatively easy to read. So we'll look at some ways of doing that. So this is from the book Glassman Deal, and she sort of divides really the writing process up into these two different sort of key aspects. So the planning stage and the actual writing stage. There's obviously there'll be some interaction between these two in different phases as you go along. But in the planning, so you'll see some things there. I think one of the important, key thing to think about is like identifying the genre and the readership. I think this has been touched on already, that with a thesis is, it's quite different from a research paper. So you are writing a different genre. and obviously the word, the length is substantially. Can you think it even just, yeah, in an introduction to, if you're thinking about a research paper or a thesis, what sort of things do you think, yeah, writers will include? So what different functions are there in an introduction and what sort of typical order? So you might say something like, some background or definition of sort of key terms would come quite early in an introduction. Any other comments about what sort of things you would expect to find? Mussaab? Mussaab?
Yes, for the introduction, as I reviewed or write it with my colleagues as authors, the important thing in introduction is to start introduction by general sentence. Let me say, this sentence, as you see, from a high distance, for example, from a planet or something else. Yes, to read just one sentence, it is very wide about the field or specialist about or related to your research. Then you narrow with more specialists according to make progress into your research. During the introduction, I think it's important to give specific numerical results. I speak about my specialist, for example, in mechatronics engineering. What are the specific results as in numeric? Or also you have to give a sentence about comparison between what you achieved in your research and the researches related to your paper or your article. Also, if there is an experimental or simulated results that support your algorithm, it should be also mentioned in the introduction. So the introduction must not be very long, also not be very little, specific. It starts, as I mentioned, from a very wide sentence about the field, then narrowing according to reach the results with specific numerical results mentioned in it.
I think that was very interesting what you were saying. About possibly the inclusion of results in an introduction.
Introduction is the more difficult step in writing article or thesis. This is what I suffered from when I wanted to write introduction. It's very difficult. But I wanted to comment on my colleague. I forgot the name. About supervisor. Yes. Yes. The supervisor is very important for driving the article or the thesis. Yes, but I think the abstract. If we speak about abstract, maybe abstract in the thesis is little difficult or not difficult, different from writing the abstract in the article. In the article, as you have said, there is panoramic sentence about the field or the context will be discussed, and it is not the conclusion. Right, there are results must be mentioned in the introduction, but these results will be enhanced by the conclusion. So I think this is also related to the requirements of the nature of the field, the journal, and also taking in consideration the advices of the advisor.
Yeah. I think, yeah, later as well, I'll ask you as well to analyze some introductions from your respective fields, and it'd be interesting to see maybe how they vary. But it varied maybe by author and by author to author as well. Um, James, do you have anything to add on introductions? It's fine if you've nothing to add.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think it was very well covered. Just that general idea of you start with your panoramic view of the broad overview, and then get gradually more and more niche, more and more specific. And I believe as you're going along, rather than sort of getting to the end and saying, right, here's every.
I'm going to show you now sort of a very brief, it's a very short sort of model introduction. And what I'd like you to do is maybe just, as I show you the text, it's just a few paragraphs, I'd like you to think about